The 2026 Chevy Equinox is more than an SUV. It's your Sunday tailgate and your parking lot snack bar. Your lucky jersey, your chairs, and your big cooler fit perfectly in your even bigger cargo space. And when it's go time, your 11.3-inch diagonal touchscreen's got the playbook, the playlist, and the tech to stay a step ahead. It's more than an SUV. It's your Equinox. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit. By using insights from the LinkedIn network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
And welcome to today's match day episode of How Are the Podcast. It's Gavin, you join us this morning, ready to go as Sunderland take on Nottingham Forest at the Stadium of Light. We've got the Welcome to Sunderland banner greeting us as we walk down the Kiel crossing this evening. We played pretty well against Villa and we come into this in decent form, so I think most of us are feeling fairly chipper, and I'm joined by three gentlemen to help me look ahead to the game. First off, we've got Ant Waterson. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Yes, looking forward to it tonight. I think I'm looking forward more to seeing the Welcome to Sunderland stand than I am the entire match. But it's going to bring back some memories, to be fair. I've got to get a photo off of my dad as well. So, yeah, looking forward to it, mate.
Absolutely same. I'm purposely drinking in the town pre-match so I can walk over Kiel Crossing and see it. All lit up, hopefully. Also with us is Mr. Sunderland himself. It's Andrew Smithson. Hello, mate.
Hello. That's lovely, that, Mr. Sunderland. I'll take that, like.
You're in good company with Luke O'Nien and Kevin Ball there, aren't you?
I think they're slightly better footballers than me. But other than that, yeah, I can see the comparisons.
Yeah. And also we've got Johnny Hawley. Hello, mate.
Yes, hello, Gav. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Ant. Bloody hell, there's not normally that many introductions to make on a pod, is there? But yeah. I'm excited as well, just to add to the positivity from the lads. Looking forward to this one. Should be a good game. And it's nice that we're just looking forward to it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's why there's so many on the pod today. We're all gagging for the game tonight, aren't we, Andrew? We've got plenty to look forward to with this one. I think if I was a neutral, I would be buzzing to watch this match just because there's so much riding on it. It's the big game of the weekend, in my opinion. And going into the weekend, you've got this one kicking things off on a Friday night. If either team wins it, it has massive implications to what's going on in the Premier League with us. We'll be right up there, putting pressure on the teams around us. I think if you think we get 3 points, that would put us on 49, level with Bournemouth, but probably below them on goal difference. But, right in the mix with Brighton, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Brentford, Everton, Fulham for those places for Europe. And at the other end of the table, Forest win, they're not far off safety, and it puts massive, massive pressure on Tottenham when they play Wolves. So there's a lot of different strings to this game, and I just think it's such a big fixture, this one. But I don't feel like there's any real pressure attached to it for us, which just makes it such an interesting one to look forward to.
There's no pressure attached to us, definitely not, Gav. But you're right, there's the potential there for this to be a bit like the Villa game, another classic that the neutrals really enjoy watching. For Forest, from Forest's point of view, I'd be a little bit conscious of the fact that Tottenham are going to Wolves and could possibly pick up a win now that Wolves are down. They might be playing Wolves at a good time. So yeah, Forest will be desperate to put a bit more space between them. Whereas for us, yeah, we've got plenty to play for, but without the fear of, if we lose, it being a catastrophe. We're in a great position for these last couple of weeks, and I hope this unveiling of the signage kind of gives us a bit of a boost to the atmosphere. You know how at the start of the season and when they opened the Kiel crossing and it just had everybody up for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
a Friday night, the classic under the lights. I know that's a trademarked cliche, but
In
you
Leeds it
know,
is anyways.
well, in Leeds it is, and a bit of nostalgia and all of that, and just hopefully everybody's well up for it.
Are you up for it, Johnny?
Oh, bang up for us. I mean, I can hear the pitchforks sharpening outside my window for all the Leeds inhabitants coming after Andrew for his stealing of Under the Light. But no, for this game, it's probably the most just like honestly excited I've felt about a Sunderland League game in a long time because, I mean, we all know, don't we? Sunderland have not been a particularly stable club over almost all my entire life and over a lot of everybody listening's, I'm sure. So often, and I think I've said this a few times, like how many times at the end of a season, if we still have something to play for, is it a negative? You know, we're trying to avoid relegation. We're trying to, scrape into the playoffs. Whatever it might be, there tends to be some element of jeopardy to it because usually as well, we've been run so badly that if we do get relegated, it's, oh my God, the club will be in crisis. There'll be total catastrophe everywhere. So you never get a chance to enjoy a meaningful game at the end of the season until the results happened. Obviously we enjoy it when we win, but this game we get to just go into it from the start, totally relaxed. And the only thing I would take issue with what Andrew said before was that I do think there is pressure on this game, but it's just a totally different sort of pressure. It's the kind of pressure that I would hope that the squad are able to just embrace because we as a fan base should embrace it. It's a great occasion. We've got a team at home who are struggling against relegation and we've got an opportunity to put a real, stake in the ground in terms of our run for the European places towards the end of the season, lay down a little bit of a little bit of a marker. And, we almost got a result against Villa. It wasn't to be, but if we can follow that up with a good result, then I think all of a sudden that really puts that pack of teams that we're in amongst, it puts them all on notice that Sunderland are, they're not here to make up the numbers. They're here to have a go. And so, yeah, like I said, just going back to that pressure thing, it's, Xhaka and Mukele and all the lads in that squad, Ronaldo, they're also experienced. They'll have played in this kind of pressure plenty of times. They've won trophies, they've been in cup finals and all that kind of thing. So it shouldn't be alien to them. And you've got to hope as well that can be like a real crutch that the rest of the less experienced players can lean on. Chris Rigg and even somebody like Robin Roofs, who, as good as he's been, he's still only a young lad. So yeah, I'm really excited because I think everything's there for us to have a proper go at it. And I think that's an exciting opportunity because there's nothing to fear. So we can go into this one and just try and show ourselves at the best of what this Sunderland team could be.
Yeah, and Régis Le Bris in his press conference and was basically asked about whether the players are kind of, I don't know what the words were, but it was sort of, have they got some sort of extra motivation now that they can qualify for Europe? And he basically said they're always ready. They always want to, they're ambitious. They want to push on. And there is that feeling, isn't there, that now that there's absolutely no way we can be relegated. And I don't think there ever really was a possibility we'd be relegated. But now that we've pushed beyond that point, it does kind of feel like the players have got together and went, yeah, we can do this. And it just feels like sort of when I think maybe from the Mags game on, I would say, from the Mags game onwards, there's just been something a little bit different about us. I think even at Villa, I know that we conceded 4 poor goals, but even at Villa, I was coming away thinking, you know what, we didn't play badly there, like, and we possibly deserved something from the game. And then obviously at the Mags and against Tottenham, I think we're a little bit more expansive, and I just think there's almost this feeling that we can actually do it, and it's bringing something a little bit extra out of some of these players. And I imagine, the likes of Xhaka around the team and Nordy, their experience will come in massively, really handy over not just this game, but probably the remainder of the season.
Yeah, to be fair as well, it was one of them games Sunday where it was like you took a lot of positives out of the game, didn't you? Like we scored 3 nice goals. Yeah, we didn't defend brilliantly for their goals or anything like that, but we took a side who's, like I say, pushing for the Champions League. Gunning for me, they're going to win the Europa League. I think they're a really good side, and for me, I thought they were the best side that we've played this season. The team that's played probably the best against us all season. I thought they were excellent, and I thought we more than held ourselves. And like you say, it's probably taken them couple of games. As I said, probably the Spurs win as well to kind of lift them up and say, you know what, we can actually achieve something quite special, because obviously how well English teams are doing in the cups and everything like that in Europe. That it could go down to ninth, I think, and if everything goes away, and it just gives us a chance, like I say, to push as high as we can, finish as high as we can. And I do think I think that pressure it's a good kind of pressure to have, isn't it? Because you're looking at it thinking, you know what, we win tomorrow. There's a few of the teams who are in and around us who aren't playing, because obviously FA Cup semi-final weekend. I think Brentford have got to go to Manchester United on Monday night. I think Everton away to West Ham, which is a difficult game because they're fighting for their lives down there. So if we can get the 3 points, then it's absolutely class for us. Like if we can pull that away tonight, that'd be unreal. And it just gives, like I say, it basically just says to everyone, we're here and we're going for it. And we've got a decent run in, haven't we? You know what I mean? It's not as if we've got all the Cities and Arsenals of this world. We've got teams in and around us who probably aren't playing for anything, who we've got the next 4 games. So it's really good. But like you say, I mean, you're looking at Janta and Mukiele, and they've been through stuff like this before, haven't they? So they'll be having the words this week, and I think that's what makes this weekend, it's what makes our game as well really, really important. I agree with you. I think this is the big game this weekend. I think it's got all the hallmarks of a thriller. To be honest, I think it's going to be a really, really entertaining game.
Yeah, no, I agree with most what Anne said there, Andrew. The only thing I would take issue with, I think there's only really Wolves in the running who have nothing to play for. I think obviously Forest have got a lot to play for. Man U going for the Champions League, Everton and Chelsea going for the European spots. But Andrew, that actually, I think, and I've said this a few times on the pod this week, I think that puts us in a real position of strength, because whilst Forest have to stay up, Man United have to make the Champions League, Everton and Chelsea have to make Europe. The Everton with their new ground, they've got to have something to show for it at some point. The money they've invested, I mean, it would be catastrophic for Chelsea if they don't get Champions League football, and they're going to be nowhere near. I mean, they have to be in Europe next season, Chelsea. We don't. So there's no pressure on us in that sense. There is pressure. The players will put pressure on themselves to perform. Again, I probably come back to something Johnny touched on there. There is a different kind of pressure when it comes to Sunderland. But it's do or die for a lot of these clubs, where I think with us, it's not. And people are probably bored of us bringing this up, but it just reminds us of that playoff campaign under Mowbray, where we had no pressure on us, and it just helped us. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case with this. Can you imagine, Andrew, if we beat Forest and we beat Wolves? So we're 6 points better off than we are right now going into that Man United game, which will basically then be a kind of if we don't win, we don't win. We'll be 6 points from 9 would be great going into Everton and Chelsea. And I've just got this feeling that by the time we come to the Chelsea game, we're still going to be in the mix for Europe, and it's going to be a big game. But that I think makes this game fairly important for how it plays out, because I think whilst Forest are in a good run of form, I think they're unbeaten in 7, as somebody said before there. They're in a good run of form. They've got their own fight going on. I think it would be a real statement if we win this game, a massive statement, because like I say, they're doing all right at the minute. They're probably way outperforming the position in the table that they're in. And you kind of expect that, don't you, with struggling teams? There's always 1 or 2 who come into sort of top 8 form, top 9 form at the end of the season to try and pull away. They're maybe that team. So I think this would be a massive, massive tick in the box if we can beat them.
It would, and the timing of it would be good, because we're kicking off the weekend, as people have said. We're the first game of the weekend. So if we are starting Saturday morning with 3 extra points in the bag, that just puts a little bit more doubt in all those other teams' minds. I take the point that it's actually a good thing for us, in that most of the teams we are playing, bar Wolves, still have reason to perform, because you never know what you're going to get from sides who've got nothing to play for. They can sometimes be a bit of a rogue element, because sometimes they'll turn it on and play the best football. We know what most of the clubs we're playing against need to do. The Chelsea one, bizarrely, by that point, they're on such a downward spiral And did I read right that yesterday they pedalled? Well, was it yesterday
Yeah.
or
Day before.
Zinnia, yeah.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately, I wouldn't have minded going into that final game with him in charge. It would have been
Same.
probably a little
well,
bit
Can
more.
I
of a-
put my hand up for that job? Just if any Chelsea boss or anyone is listening to this, because I wouldn't mind 24 million quid to be shiting my job for 3 months. Like, gotta be honest.
Wouldn't
Well,
be bad with it.
I tell you what, I'm gonna undercut you and say I'll do it for 12 million. Sorry, mate. But in all seriousness, I know what you're saying. They might be rejuvenated by then, but there's just as much chance that by the time we're playing them, their season's over. But certainly prior to that, yes, we should be up against sides who are not going to be. They're going to be performing the same as they have for weeks. They're not going to be throwing the kids in or anything like that. They're going to be taking the game seriously. Johnny was right to pull me up earlier about we're not under pressure. Look at him, he's pleased with himself there. We do need to take it seriously. It is important, and a good result against Forest will be crucial if we are to reach Europe. But it's that thing. It's not pressure of we're in bother. It's just that nice prize to go for. I really can't wait. I really can't wait. I think it is. It's set up nicely. I do think we can afford to lose, and it doesn't need to be the end of the world. But yeah, a win, it'll be brilliant. And Friday night in the town, after Sunderland have just won, it's going to be absolutely bouncing, man. It's going to be brilliant.
Hope so. I'm planning to go out after the match, so I'm
Uh,
hoping it's bouncing. But yeah, Chris likes to bring this up a lot, Johnny, and I think it's a point. But when we play Sunday at 2:00 or whatever, it kind of doesn't have the same feel as a Saturday at 3:00. But I think there's, Andrew mentioned it before, and again, this is a point we've made a few times. When the games have had a bit of occasion about them, like, when Keele Crossing opened, as Andrew said, the Remembrance game, the opening day of the season with the Tifo, like, there's been various points this season when the home games have felt like an occasion and have felt special. It's fed into the atmosphere around it, and there is a bit of that feeling. I know it might sound daft to some people. It's only a bloody sign, but it is something, isn't it? And it's a night game. The lights are going to be on. And I think people are going to be more up for this because we have whinged a bit about the atmosphere recently at home games. And I've just got a feeling it's going to be a good atmosphere, this one. And I think that's, this is a really obvious thing to say, but we do need a good atmosphere to perform. And I'm praying that's the case. I'm praying that it's going to have a real sort of, not party feel about it, but people turn up and going, I'm up for this today. And I think that I do feel like that's going to be the case.
I totally agree with you. I've seen, just browsing social media and that as you do, and there's been like a few different posts I've seen from people making that same point. We need a good atmosphere on Friday night. Like, let's everyone get down and get behind the lads and that. And look, it's social media, so take it with a massive handful of salt. But I think it's noticeable that there's been more of an appetite building up around the game as the week's kind of gone on. And the fact it's a Friday night helps as well. It's a bit trite, but people have had a bit more time to have a drink. It's a Friday night, so everyone's, most people are off work the next day. It does help. And the stuff about the lettering on the side of the stadium, like, okay, for any other fans of other clubs, they'd be like, why are you getting so head up about the sign or whatever? But you kind of said, Gav, like, oh, it's a bit daft or whatever, but it doesn't take much to turn a match into an occasion because everyone's rocking up looking for something to get behind. You know what I mean? Obviously, the team on the pitch being number one, but everyone's there for a good time, essentially. So it doesn't take a lot for it to become an excuse for, it's the game where the sign's just been put up. So let's all get down and, I think you even said it before, Gav. I can't remember whether we were on or off air, but you were saying, like, I'm going to go through the town first and make sure I walk over the bridge and all that. That adds up when it's, shared amongst an extra 10,000 fans who all go over maybe half an hour earlier to town and maybe have another drink and they're meeting up with their mates earlier. It builds that buzz 100%. And then you marry that with the fact that, as we've all just spoken about, this is such a big game and a huge opportunity for Sunderland. You put those things together and it does have, much like I think the game on the pitch, as the lads have said, has the makings of a bit of a a ding-dong battle about it. It's got all the makings of a really, really good atmosphere. And the fact that it's, like you said again, like not quite a party atmosphere because we haven't achieved anything yet, really. But the fact it can be that positivity, that excitement, looking forward to something. Again, like I said before, how many times has it been fear? It's been fear that's driving people, desperate not to see us concede, and everyone's on edge and tense the whole game. This time, everyone's chilled, everyone's excited. As long as that translates into positive energy for the players on the pitch, however that comes, then we're happy. But if it can be a properly raucous atmosphere as well, because live on Sky, like on TV, with the only match getting played on Friday night or only Premier League match. So if anyone's watching Premier League football on the Friday night slot, there's only one game you're watching. So this week it's us, and everybody sees as much football as they want. You can watch 100 matches on demand in a day if you want, but there is still a bit of prestige that you can kind of associate with being on that prime time slot, whatever day it is. So if we give a good account of ourselves on the pitch and off the pitch, you've also got to think, not only does that help us on the night, tonight against Forest, but it just reinforces the positivity around the club in general, shows the fan base in a good light, and how many new signings need to talk about watching us on Netflix or seeing this social media clip or that. We know this stuff makes a difference, no matter how big or small it is. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think not only do we need it, I think it is going to be a great atmosphere. I really, really do. I think it's going to be a properly joyous occasion to start with. And then obviously we just got to hope that the football carries that through.
Can I just point something out? Johnny said the phrase there, we haven't achieved anything yet. And I know exactly where he's coming from. I tell you what, April 2026, if somebody had told us 8 months prior that would be mathematically safe and had been for a few weeks and saying we've not achieved anything yet, it does tell you again just what a great season. We were talking earlier about, could Chelsea be a decider for Europe? At the start of the season, people will have looked at the fixtures and thought, oh, bloody hell, we could be going into the final day of the season, needing points off Chelsea to still. All of this is an achievement in itself. I'm not criticizing you, Johnny, because I know exactly where you're coming from. But just I saw another opportunity there to just drive home this point that what a season we're having.
I thought you were going to say you saw another opportunity to get one over on Johnny because he's got one over on you before there. Well, yeah.
No, Johnny's my mate. I would never be. I would never try and upset him.
We mentioned before about the Welcome to Sunderland sign-on, but it's actually Made in Sunderland week this week. The club have put a real effort into spotlighting Sunderland culture and creatives and all the rest. I mean, there's been some great stuff on social media. I don't know if you saw the shirts they're auctioning off. The 3 artists. One of them was painted by Jody Craddock, obviously ex-Sunderland defender. There's been a bunch of things in collaboration with the university. There's a load of activities and stuff going on around kickoff, sort of incorporating that Welcome to Sunderland thing on the rotor end. The University of Sunderland are doing a takeover special fan zone in Keele Square before the game. So that should be interesting. Anybody with kids wanting to go down and do that. You can also purchase your Legends Waystone, which is part of all of this. And also on Sunday, there's the women's game against Palace as well, which is part of the whole package, the event. And I think men's season ticket holders can go to that game for free. But yeah, it's just that whole thing about this, the sense of occasion. I think this is something the club have got right a lot this season, isn't it? It's like there's been other moments where this has happened, and it's just added to everything. And I just think it's great. Made in Sunderland, we should shout a bit more. We here shout a lot about the football team. I know me and Andrew have done a few pods over the last year or so where we've talked to Councillor Kev Johnson about things going on in the city. But I just think it is important to be proud of ourselves, isn't it? And it kind of does reflect on the pitch. And I think Sunderland's just in such a good place at the minute where we can sit back and do these sorts of things. Say, well, look at us. Look at how great Sunderland is.
No, you're right, and you know, you look at how well the city centre's come on in the last 5 years or so. It's a nice place to be now. I think I really do think it's catching up with, you know, them up the road. To be totally honest with you, I really do. I think it's a really good night out. There's some lovely like new restaurants that have opened and stuff like that. So I think that the city council's done a hell of a job. I've got to be totally honest with you. And like you say, you know, this week with it being, you know, maiden Sunderland week and stuff like that, it is good that there's 2 home games, though, isn't it? As you said, you know, that us tonight and the last is on Sunday. It just gives, you know, it gives us so much to be proud of, you know, especially as we look at what we've done this season as well. You know, obviously, we've had such a good season. We were unbeaten at home for so many games and stuff. And I think what's happened is as well is that the club's done very, very well off the pitch with all the stuff, as you said, you know, the Keel Crossing, when we all walked down Keel Crossing on that first time that opened, that was amazing, wasn't it? The first time they did the Xhaka thing, you know, before kick-off. I mean, that was just unbelievable, that. And like I said, I keep on saying on this podcast, you could just plonk me in front of a telly and play that for me all the time, because I just watch it all the time. I love it. But it's sort of like, I don't think I've felt as close to the club as what I have for a long, long time, you know, and we're going back a few years where we've gone, you know, done the double drop and everything like that. We were so like kind of like away from it, weren't we? You didn't feel close. You didn't feel engaged or anything like that. It just felt a chore to go and watch them and everything like that. And now, I mean, I can't wait. I cannot wait for tonight. You know, I've got work to do, but I can't wait to get finished at work, get myself down there, see the sign, watch the lads. Honestly, it's so good, man. So good.
Yeah. Well, after the break, we'll chat about the team and what we think is going to happen. So we'll see you after the break.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with just 30 calories and no artificial sweeteners. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Welcome back to Howie the podcast. And in his press conference this week, Régis Le Bris let slip a couple of things when it came to team news, all positive actually. He was talking about the wingers who were out. Nilson Angulo and Bertrand Traoré are probably a week or so away from being included again, but I didn't actually expect to see either of them again this season, so that's good news. But Jocelyn Tarby has been back in full training this week, I think. He might not make the bench at the weekend, but again, he's another one who we didn't expect to see probably at all this season again, because he's been through surgery. But the big one was probably Omar Alderete, who went off in that last game, and we didn't really know what was wrong with him. And Le Bris had said that he'd been poorly, basically. And I'd heard from a friend of mine who is involved in sort of non-league football in the Northeast. He'd heard about having the goalkeepers. Apparently, Roofs and Elborg were that poorly, they'd pulled the goalkeeper who's on loan at Hebben into the matchday squad just in case he was needed. So they must have been really touch and go, the goalkeepers. So that's something that nobody really knew about last week, did they? And it probably makes you think a little bit differently about the Villa performance. Like, if a load of them was struggling with illness, and we don't know who was struggling with illness, but if there was more players struggling with illness, yet they managed to find them energy reserves to get back in the game, that's pretty impressive. But the big overarching point is that we're in a really good place from a sort of injury and illness perspective, and it's probably next week you're going to be looking at a fully fit squad. Fingers crossed nobody gets any injuries, but we're not we're not far off that now, really, are we? We've basically got a fully fit squad to pick from, and it should be interesting really to see who starts, because we've got, like I say, we've got Alderete fit. Ballard will probably be very close to starting if he doesn't start. And there are one or two others who you could make a case for coming in. So nice position to be in, isn't it, with a handful of games left?
And it's not a bad time of the season to be welcoming basically everybody back, is it? You know, if you could pick a time of the season that you want to get everybody back fit for, it'd be the run-in. So from that point of view, yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
Remind you of anything. This happened last year.
I'm trying not to tempt fate too much, Gav. Okay? There's only so much positivity I'm convinced Sunderland are allowed in my lifetime, so I'm just keeping quiet. But yeah, no, it's great timing. Obviously, it might be, by the sounds of it, it's going to be probably too soon tonight for anybody who isn't Dan Ballard or Omar Alderete, basically. But Tabi could make the bench, I guess. Out wide is where we've needed reinforcements the most, you'd probably say, over the past few weeks. Like, obviously, Chris Riggs done brilliantly when he's played on the right-hand side over the past few games. I mean, unlucky not to get the goal against Brighton, played really well against the Mags. You know, he got the goal against Villa. So it's not like we haven't had the equivalent of Callum McFadzean or whoever, out wide for a stink in the gaff-up, but there's been very little. I don't know what it is, and it's some sort of like masochism. I think I keep talking about him, but the point is, like, we've had enough in reserve that we've been able to name starting 11s that have had good enough players to get results, which is the main thing. But there's been shockingly little behind that out wide. You know, we've had nothing on the bench, have we? Let's be brutally honest. We've had Harrison Jones getting on the bench, who we know is leaving the club in the summer. We've had other academy players getting on the bench who, while it's great to see them get a bit of exposure to it, we know that they're not ready yet. Because at this club, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So if they haven't been involved when everyone's fit, it's because they're not deemed to be, part of the best 20-odd players at the club, which is fine. But that does mean that when we get these lads back out wide, especially, so Angulo, Jocelyn and Traore, that's going to make a huge difference to the options that we've got available. Because it's one thing starting a game with a team that's good enough, but you need to be able to finish the game with a team that's good enough. Now, if a player tires or is having a bad game, and you can't substitute them because you've got no options on the bench, that's just as negative for your performance as it is if you'd played somebody who's not as good as that player. So definitely needed them back. Probably going to be too soon now, but the bigger question, obviously, which I'm sure we'll get onto in much more detail, is going to be what goes on with the defence. And I mean, you mentioned Ballard. I'd be shocked if he didn't start, just purely based on the fact that he did come on against Villa, and Le Bris has usually been, particularly with hamstring and muscle type injuries, he's usually been quite cautious and wouldn't tend to chuck people in if they were at risk of doing themselves a bit of a mischief. So I'd expect Ballard to be in, but then your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the illnesses. I hope nobody's had a fortnight long stomach bug or anything like that, and that everyone's everyone keeps the breakfast down this morning and has a bit of pasta before the game, all right. And I hope we see a full strength back five.
Yeah. What you thinking for the defence, Andrew? Because Hume took his chance when he came on against Villa, scored a good goal. Never ever lets us down when he plays. Like, he's probably been a bit unlucky not to play. I think he's still one of the when it comes to minutes, the highest appearance makers, isn't he, this season? I think he's either second or third. And you've got him to consider. And Ronaldo wasn't great against Villa either. And I think Martin made the case this week on the pod. He feels he hasn't been great since the AFCON, really, which you could, it's fair enough. And of course, Ballard, you've got to find a way to get him into the team. So I don't know if you're thinking along the same lines as me, but he'll probably come in for Luke O'Nien, I think. What you think with the defence?
I agree definitely with Ballard. I think I was assuming he was going to start against Villa. Presumably the only reason he didn't was he wasn't quite able to get through a full 90 minutes. So yeah, if he's now at that point, get him in straight away. The Ronaldo one interests me because I took Martin's point that he's not been hitting the heights that he had been before Christmas. I don't know if I'm just putting two and two together here. You wouldn't be surprised if he was one of those lads who had been unwell because he was off the pace against Villa. That would make sense, and it's something we need to bear in mind in future. People who go overboard with the criticism. I'm not saying Martin did about Ronaldo, but in that same question and answer pod, we were talking about some of the negative responses to individuals on social media. Let's just remember that there could be any number of reasons behind the scenes that are impacting performances. I think, though, that Le Bris doesn't like making wholesale changes. Bringing in Ballard, if he's fully fit, makes perfect sense because he's one of our best players. Retaining Aldrete, if he is fit and he was only taken off for a precaution or because he was ill, makes sense. And I think before you consider dropping Ronaldo, I think he'd need to be in poor form for longer. I'd like to think the Villa game was just a particularly bad one-off. So, yeah, minimal changes for me. Ballard comes in if he can, and Mukiele you don't need to give a second thought to, because much as I like Hume, much as I think he deserves a place somewhere in the team, Mukiele at right back has just been brilliant since returning from his injury. I think we really missed him, and having him in that spot offers us so much.
Yeah, I've had conversations about the game with people this weekend who are going through the same kind of thought process as us. You know, how we're going to pick the team, how do you fit all these different people in? And I've spoken to people who have said, well, I would probably, you know, if Alderete is not fit, I would probably move Mukiele inside and get Hume back to right back. And I just think he's so good there at right back, Mukiele. I wouldn't move him. I think you've got to keep him where he is. He's our best fullback for me, and offers us so much from an attacking perspective. But on the other side, there is that headache, isn't there, about whether you're bringing Hume or not. I think that's probably the biggest selection dilemma that Le Bris will have, whether he sticks with Ronaldo or brings in Hume. I mean, what would you do?
I'm glad I'm not picking the team because I'm going to look at what happened when Hume came on last week, and you know, when him and he came on, and did he come on with Ballard, didn't he? They both come on at the same time, didn't they? And we suddenly got better. We got ourselves back in the game. We got ourselves back in the game because of Trey Hume, because of his industriousness put to, you know, the bomb forward, you know, latch onto a mistake, but also to show that like a really, really good finish as well, considering he hadn't scored in the Premier League before. It was a very calm and composed finish, wasn't it? And I think against these who do like to get the ball out wide, to get the crosses in, don't, because I like to go for a target man. I think I'm more leaning on the side that we maybe just need Hume there because I think Hume's probably a better defender than Ronaldo is. I think Ronaldo's a better footballer, don't get us wrong. But I am leaning on the side of what Martin said, but he hasn't been, and he's obviously picked up an injury after AFCON, didn't he, where he missed a few weeks. And he hasn't been the same. You know, he seems to pick up these daft yellow cards as well, doesn't he? So I would probably look at Hume there, to be honest, because then we've got that side. I think we've got the side. You can't not put Mukiele right back, as much as it does make sense for him to go centre if Alderete is not fit. But I think he's been, as Andrew's just said before, I think he was probably our biggest miss this season when he wasn't fit. And the fact he can bomb forward, he looks as if he's built up quite a good understanding with Rig as well. Now Rig hasn't been out there for that long, but he looks as if he's built up a really good understanding. So for me, I think he may go Hume, you know, because he likes Hume, doesn't he? Yeah, I think it's been paying him that he hasn't played the last couple of games. And I think he maybe put him in, and even if it just gives Ronaldo a bit of a rest. I mean, I hopefully last week's performance was because he was ill, because he was poor, wasn't he? It was probably his worst game for us. I'm just thinking flabbergasted how these lads have picked themselves off the sick beds and played so well last week. That's amazing. That, like I said, I didn't realise that both the goalkeepers were ill, and the fact that we were going to be bringing in a goalkeeper from Hebden, you know, the lad out on loan. That's just amazed me, and it just goes to show that as well. Like when the going gets tough, our lads are ready for it. You know what I mean? And that's really, really good. It's a good character to do that. So yeah, I think I'd just go Hume, but it wouldn't shock us if it is Ronaldo. But for me, I think just Hume.
Rest of the team pretty much picks itself, Johnny, doesn't it? I can't think of any changes I would make. I know there were people went a bit overboard with the Diarra criticism last week, but I would still be starting him. Him, Siddiqui, you know, Lafay, Xhaka, and then Rig on the right with Robbie up front. I can't think of any. I know that there was a question we got during the week about whether we'd start Wilson Isidore, but I don't think there's any chance he's dropping Broby for Isidore.
It's not exactly the kind of game you'd imagine would suit Isidore anyway. It's not
No.
like, because I can't remember who it was now after the game. Might have even been Chris at some point, but somebody was talking about how, like, Isidore against Villa coming off the bench, it made a lot of sense because the game was clearly going to be there for him to be able to stretch it. Villa were playing a massively high line, and coming on the coming off the bench late, means you've got fresh legs and all the rest of it. Perfect matchup, makes loads of sense. This is not going to be that kind of game. As much as Forest need a result, and this is something that I think when you were chatting before about the idea of playing teams who do or don't have something to play for, I think it should probably suit us a bit, because Forest having to get a result means they can't afford to just purely sit back and try and force us to dictate the game, because they are going to have to make the run at points, which you'd imagine would allow us to get into the game a bit, but they're still not going to play a high line. They're not going to come to the stadium and stick the defenders on the halfway line or, 40 yards from goal and say, there's a load of space in behind us, lads, get your pacey forwards in, because it would be suicide. So Brobby's got to play up front. And then apart from that, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think the team picks itself, and that front six, the midfield three and the front three, doesn't change. The two questions that you could pose would be, you've already said, that Diarra should start. I'm sure there'll be some people who would drop him, and if you did that, you could bring Enzo Lefebvre centrally and put Talby on the wing. That's one thing you could do. I wouldn't do it, but you could. The other thing is the idea of playing Talby on the right instead of Chris Rigg. But again, I wouldn't do that, because I think I've already mentioned Rigg's played really, really well the last few games, and he's one of the fresher members of the squad as well. He's not got the miles and minutes in his legs that some of the other lads do. He's not coming off some injuries or, a mid-season tournament break like, again, quite a lot of the lads. So with all that in mind, yeah, I'm going the same. I mean, the defence, as we've said, we'll see what happens in terms of fitness and that, but the rest of the team, I'm going unchanged, and I don't think the arguments for Talby coming in or whoever, I don't think they're particularly strong, because we played really well against Villa. There were just moments that killed us. We played really well against Spurs, played really well against the Mags, etc. This is a team that's performing, so I don't see any logic behind trying to rip any of that up, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, you've got to pick your battles in games, and for me, Forest's strength is Gibbs White, Anderson, that midfield, and we've got to get legs in midfield and run and fight for second balls, and we're very good at that. So I'm expecting us to do that quite well. But if you take the R out there, you move Enzo and you bring in another winger, I'm not sure you get the same amount of I'm not saying Talby's not a grafter, but I think we've got more legs in the midfield if it's the same midfield at five that we've got.
Well, and you probably suffocate Enzo a bit if he has to play centrally, because as you've just said, their biggest strength is that midfield. They've got Elliot Anderson in there, they've got Morgan Gibbs-White, they've got players who can get at you and close the space and they can be aggressive. If Lefebvre's forced to play through the middle all game, then he's going to be in amongst that. If he's out wide, he's got chance to get on the ball in some better areas, maybe isolate against a fullback and start putting some telling balls in rather than getting stuck in that quagmire in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah. Right, let's go around the table and what we think's going to happen. We'll start with you, Johnny, I think. We'll go with you, mate. What do you reckon?
I'll regret saying this, but I'm confident. So I think, like I just said, I think Forest are going to have to come and try and play at least for periods of the game, because they're absolutely, desperate for points. So I could see it being the kind of game where we've started to up our ability to control games, I think, of late. Not that we're able to get on the ball for 90 minutes and pass teams to death like, 2011 Barcelona or whatever. But I do think we've got a bit more of that in us. So I could see it being the kind of game where, we go a goal up in the first half, settle it down, and then as Forest start having to try and come at us to rescue the points, I think we could start picking them off, to be honest. And then late in the day, you can maybe bring in Isidore or somebody on and try and capitalise. So I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win by at least a couple of goals. So I'm going to go with 3-0, actually. There you go, 3-0. Enzo Lefebvre, Brian Brobby and Wilson Isidore.
That shit's all over my reputation for being very optimistic. Andrew, what about you?
Top that, Gav.
Andrew?
Well, we've given it the big one, haven't we? About how it's going to be like, I think, match of the season and everybody in the country is going to be sitting down tonight with their takeaway watching Sunderland and Forest. So hopefully it's not an absolute flop. I don't think that Aston Villa game is how Le Bris wants things to be. It's very rare for games to be that high scoring. So he's probably going to want us to be a little bit tighter, you know. Having said that, I think we start strongly and I can see us getting an early goal. I'll say 2-0, which isn't quite as optimistic as Johnny, but I still think we'd all take it. And my big prediction is, do you remember when Lefay had his aberration against Brentford and then scored a cracker at the weekend in the cup at Everton? I would love it if Diarra goes and scores a screamer or like a clever goal or something like that. So yeah, 2-0, early goal, and one of the goals will be from Diarra.
Oh, then, and are you gonna go with these two and say we'll win or what?
Well, when I was at that Everton game, and I was literally just about to say that, so Andrew stole me thunder, so I'm a little bit a little bit.
Go on.
I think we'll win. I think having Ballard back is massive for us. I do think we'll keep a clean sheet. 3-0 and 2-0's gone. I'm not going to go 4-0. I'll go 1-0 and probably with the goal because they've got Murillo out injured, haven't they? It'll be a big miss for them, and I fancy probably against their centre halves. So yeah, I'll go probably with a bit of a howitzer from like the edge of the box or something like what he did against Spurs. We'll go with that 1-0. Comfortable 1-0 though, guy.
Well, I was talking about picking your battles, and I think a lot of this game hinges on probably three things for me. Stopping Gibbs, White, and Anderson in midfield is imperative. We've just got to run all over them because they're outstanding players. Cutting off the supply to Chris Wood, which means the fullbacks have to do a lot better than they did against Villa, and I think a big part of that will be starting Ballard. I think Ballard and Alderete against him is the sensible partnership. He's very good in the air. The Forest fan I spoke to this week told us that he's a bit rusty at the minute because he's not played so much and he's been injured. Wood, and he's a little bit older, so we're going to need the big lads in there winning all the headers and getting Brobby right into them centre halves. I think they're going to bring in a young lad, from what I gather. I forget the name of him now. Jai Cunha, I think he's called.
Yeah, he came on from last week, that Cunha, yeah.
Yeah, who's by all accounts a decent player, but he is 21-year-old and he's a big boy. But is he going to like somebody like Brobby smashing into him? Well, we're about to find out. But they're the key battles around the pitch. If we can win them battles, we will win the game. But we concede the first goal so often that I'm going to say that's going to happen. I think we go 1-0 down and we win 2-1 is my prediction. We always win 2-1. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. I think we win, but I think the boys will make us sweat a little bit. But sometimes that's the best way to win, isn't it? Kind of coming from behind. I mean, we've done it so many times this season that it's just become sort of natural to us. I would rather we did what you said, Johnny. I'd rather we won 3-0 that was comfortable. But yeah, I'm going to go with 2-1 to Sunderland and we go 1-0 down. So we've got a full house of victories there.
Yeah, I was going to boo you for saying we go behind, but then you rescued it with we always win 2-1. So I'll let you have that one. Like,
yes, and listeners, get in touch with us. Let us know what you think the score will be tonight. You can, I don't know if you know this, but if you're a Spotify user, you can leave comments on podcasts now. So be sure to leave your comments on the pod on Spotify if you're a Spotify listener, or just contact us on social media or by email. Our email's in the description of this show. So let us know what you think the score's going to be. There is plenty of content over on rotoreport.sbnation.com today. We'll have Chris's match preview, Martin's starting 11 piece where he guesses the team. We've got all the score predictions from our predictions team, Fan Focus, which is an interview with a written interview with a Forest fan, which you can read. And of course, after the game, we'll have Andy's player ratings. And then tomorrow, we will have the Matchday musings, talking points, 2 up, 2 down, all those other good bits that we have around Matchday over on rotoreport.sbnation.com. We've also got a reaction pod straight after the game, which if you're up late, hopefully you'll be buzzing from a Sunderland win and you'll not want to go to sleep and you'll just be digesting all the content you can. We will have a reaction pod after the game, which should be out sort of 11-ish, all going well. And then on Saturday morning, I will be joined by Sunderland legend Gordon Armstrong. So that should be fun. Get his take on things. Like I say, fingers crossed everything goes well and we do win and we are all right. Just leaves me to say thank you very much, gentlemen. Been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you to the listeners. We'll see you at full time, hopefully talking about Sunderland win. We'll see you then.